Here's what I experienced when I would talk to people and when I would listen to the rhetoric is there is a continual stirring up of anxiety and rage. Yeah. And the anxiety is around what I would call ethnic erasure. So it's this fear that my way of being is under threat. Not just that we're going to lose some money with more taxes, or it's going to be more cumbersome to get documentation at the DMV. The threat is our way. If those people, the enemy, get in political power, right, the woke mob, if they take over, our way of being will cease to exist. So ethnic erasure. And so if I could nerd out Bible style.
Well, ethnic erasure and like personally, like our ethnicity will go.
People in the room extinct. Are being told. So our way.
We're an endangered species. We're becoming an endangered species.
Yep. So. The unfortunate thing is, there's not really a great word to describe that ethnos. So biblically, the language of ethnos, the Greek word talks about an identifiable people group. Sometimes it gets translated as nations or peoples, but it's people groups. So here's this identifiable people group, and we don't really have a name for it. They would call themselves American, but they would distinguish themselves from the coastal elites, people who live in Seattle and San Francisco and New York City. And so we just, as Americans, we just don't really have good language for it. I have found probably the most helpful so far term to use is it's Eisenhower's America. So the way of envisioning our way of being as kind of that 1950s Dwight D. Eisenhower era, that kind of encapsulates it. A modern expression of this, and I don't at all mean this term derisively. I've been accused of being patronizing. I don't at all mean it to be patronizing, but it's Cracker Barrel America. And I like Cracker Barrel. But Cracker Barrel has captured the sense, the flavor, the root of this ethnic identity and expression. And there's so much good there, right? There's so many things to celebrate and to elevate and to encourage. And there's just like every ethnos. And what groups like Turning Point or Flashpoint or others are doing is they're saying that whole way of being is directly under threat by the enemy, so we have to rally together. So what they're promising, they're stirring up fear and anxiety and rage, and then they're promising safety, belonging, and purpose. Safety, we're going to protect each other. You'll literally hear that language, right?
Which is why we need so many guns.
And we need people in power. So safety, we are going to protect one another. Belonging, true patriots like you and me, we're going to stand together. Purpose, let's go out there and we're going to take over the school board. We're going to take over the county seat. We're going to get this candidate elected. Safety, belonging, purpose. And so it's coming from a place of fear and anxiety, which shifts to rage, and then they're promised as a balm to that anxiety, safety, belonging, and purpose. So if you just listen to any talk track, just listen for the fear. There's some thread of fear and anxiety. Here in Phoenix, if you drove up any major street, 80% of the signs, the political advertisements in my community were fear-mongering. This candidate is an evil antichrist person who's going to eat your children.
I've seen that.
Right? Yeah. And so what do we do when we're afraid? And this is the center of my argument. For a Jesus follower, we're always faced with this choice when we're afraid. We're afraid of losing something that's near to us. We're always faced with the choice of, do I take the cross or the sword? So coyly, I would say, Christian nationalism started in the Garden of Gethsemane when the soldiers come to take Jesus. And Peter reaches for the sword. And Jesus says, put the sword away. We don't do that here.
Right.
The conflict that Jesus had with his disciples most frequently was the conflict around power. Do we take the cross or do we take the sword? And what American Christian nationalism argues is we are under threat, and the cross isn't going to get us where we want to go.
Wow.
So we're going to take the cross, we're going to draw it on this sword here in order to justify its power and its use.